I was teaching a discipleship class, and in usual fashion, I went around the room and asked how the students were doing. One student named Pete, a young man who was raised a missionary, graduated from Bible school, and was working in a church, voiced this familiar refrain. It was familiar because he had said it before. I should pray more. Even though Pete was experienced with God, he struggled with prayer. But Pete wasn't alone. As soon as he said it, there was this resonance like echoes in a valley. It was like we all nodded our heads and said out loud, yes, I should pray more too. We would go out this next week, pray more, and come back filled up, glowing, empowered because we had communed with our God. Only it wouldn't end up that way. We would slink back like a dog with its belly on the ground, deflated, defeated, embarrassed because we had hoped so much. We are no strangers to struggling with prayer. You know what I mean, right? You sit down to have time with God, and pretty soon you're thinking about the movie from the night before, how surprising the plot was, that you never saw it coming, that the friend, the one with the mousy voice and the red hair and the cozy slip-ons, she's the one who actually slipped the pills into the drink instead of her lousy cheating husband, which is what you suspected. And pretty soon you're thinking about which of your friends sound like mice and which ones you don't really trust, and how you should be nicer to your husband. And pretty soon you remind yourself that you're in prayer, so you try to get back there to that place of prayer, but figuring out which one of your friends is trying to kill you is far more interesting than God. But then you're feeling guilty for preferring your friends over God, because while He makes mountains and oceans, all your friends can do is make some lousy casserole. And even though He died for you, all you can think of is how your friends threw you a party. And so you try hard to get back, but now you're feeling awful because you're preferring your friends over God, and you feel farther away from God. You meant to feel closer. And so you decide to abandon prayer altogether because you're so miserable anyway. Why would God want to spend time with you? And speaking of time, you've glanced at your watch for the 40th time, and even though you have 12 minutes to spare in your prayer time, you end up prayer altogether because not much is going on except you feeling, well, guilty and miserable about yourself. You're sure there's more to prayer than this. You've heard it's vital, you've heard it's important, you've heard it's part of your walk with God, but again, your self-esteem is hurting. You feel miserable. And so you schedule it anyway against your tendency. You schedule prayer with as much excitement as a mammogram because you heard it's so important. No wonder we struggle with prayer. The Bible says to pray continually. I used to think this was like the funniest verse in the whole Bible. Funny like me trying to fly by flapping my arms, or running a 4-minute mile, or even singing a song on pitch. Despite my best attempt, it's ridiculous and embarrassing and impossible to try. It's pointless. But if prayer is, as my friend Mary Alice Islip describes it, the breath of God that keeps your fellowship with Him fresh and alive, then prayer isn't so laughable.